It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we'll come to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Men on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit Amazon.com and just Google Tom Molyneux or my name, Bill Calogero, and it'll come right back up. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by BillyCBoxing.com. That's right. You can catch up on all the shows you've missed, the latest boxing news, and Dax is back. That's right. DaxCon is back. We lost a lot of data on the website, but fear not. Dax has a column. You want to see his stuff he'll be putting up there, just visit BillyCBoxing.com and go to DaxCon's special area of the website. It says his name, DaxCon, and just click it and you can see his articles. And today's show is also being brought to us in part by the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame's 2024 inductees. Oh, did they say that I was inducted? Oh, that's right, I am. And I want you to join us for that day on September 15th. There's a banner up on BillyCBoxing.com. It's got my ugly mug on there saying about, getting inducted into the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame. And we want you to join us for that banquet. It's a great time. The food is fantabulous. It's at Russo's on the Bay in Howard Beach. And if you click that banner up on BillyCBoxing.com, you'll get all of the information that you need to join us. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's popping up in the chat room. And if you're watching or listening live, come on over to the chat room in YouTube, be part of the show. My name Dave and Jesus and unofficial officials in there. And hopefully Coach is going to be back. And we got people popping in during the show. But today's show, I got Alex Piepaoli joining us in a little bit. And he's going to be going over the big fight that took place this past weekend. Alexander Usyk took on Tyson Fury. I got that one right. I picked Usyk, even though I'm a big Tyson Fury fan. I don't know if you caught the fight. You should have, but it was a fantastic fight. It really was. In my opinion, it lived up to the billing. We will definitely get Alex's thoughts on it. But Usyk won a split decision, and he improved to 22 wins, no losses, 14 of his wins coming by knockout. Tyson Fury loses for the first time in his career. He drops to 34-1 with 24 wins by knockout. The scores, 114-113 was the judge who saw it for Tyson Fury. And then the other two had it 115-112, 114-113 for Usyk. I scored the fight 115-113 for Usyk. I ended up giving Usyk, or actually Tyson Fury, one of the earlier rounds that everyone else seemed to have given to Usyk. I gave it to Fury round 2, but we'll go over that a little bit later. And let me just fill you in on the rest of the card in case you missed it. For in the cruiserweight division for the vacant IBF title, Jai Opatia improved to 25-0 with 19 of his wins coming by knockout when he retained his belt, 117-111, 116-112, 116-112 over Marius Briedis. This fight got interesting at the end, boys and girls. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was a one-way fight for most of the fight. Then all of a sudden, Marius Briedis came on strong in the second, towards the end, really, toward the last 3 or 4 rounds. And I thought Opitia was almost on his way out in that fight, but it was a good one. Another fight that was pretty entertaining was Anthony Cacace improved to 22-1 with 8 knockouts when he beat previously unbeaten Joe Cordina and took his title from him, the IBF 130-pound title. In a interesting heavyweight fight, Ajit KBL improved to 25-0 with 17 knockouts when he beat Frank Sanchez in this fight. Alex Piepaoli is here. I'm going to get him on here because this fight was interesting. What's up, Alex?
Good morning, Billy C. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. The flare. What am I going to be looking for? Special things you got? My man Damien giving me a congrats. Thanks, Damien. Hey, listen, I was just going over the fights. We might as well talk about all of them with you, but this one specifically, we'll get back to the main event in a second. But this one specifically, KBL against Frank Sanchez. I was surprised at this fight, Alex. I thought Sanchez, was going to win this fight. He certainly, had the pedigree, but he clearly had a leg injury. I mean, the announcers noticed the whatchamacallit, brace on his knee, but it was worse than that. It looked like it was locking up on him, and when I first watched that fight as it started, I'm saying, oh, look at the upper body on Sanchez. He's all muscle and stuff. He's going to run out of gas. But, I mean, he clearly couldn't move around. I mean, my first question is, why the hell did he fight if he wasn't 100%? I mean, this is the kind of loss that could be a nail in the coffin for his career, so to speak. I'm not saying he's finished, but all of a sudden he was on that cusp of being, that next guy. Now all of a sudden he's an opponent, and KBL is that guy.
Yeah, I think that, whenever you get an injury, you have to weigh the options. Do I go ahead and go through with the fight, or do I tell them, look, I'm hurt and I can't go through with the fight? And I think maybe because of the magnitude of the event, I don't know when he was hurt, but it was very clear the knee was bothering him, and maybe it's just from carrying around that big, massive torso. But yeah, he did. He looked, as you've described in the past, he looked like a baby deer out there, struggling around on those little legs. Because it definitely, the knee brace was the tip off that something was wrong, but far more than the knee brace was, he was moving it in a strange way, like it was literally hurting.
It looked like it kept locking up. I don't know if you've ever had a knee lock up, but all of a sudden he would be kind of moving, and then all of a sudden, his leg would stiffen up,
Yeah.
But
which reduced his mobility tremendously. I did think
that's his game. And that's his game.
I thought that was going to be a much closer fight than it was, and whether it was all due to the leg injury or just from the fact that Caballel fought a really good fight, we don't know. But certainly the leg didn't do Sanchez any favors.
Well, Caballel, I love the aggressive style that he has, and I hope he maintains it. So far, every fight that I've seen him in, he does. So you got to assume. And before we talk about the main event, and there's a lot to talk about there, it was a sad card for you, I know, because Sergey Kovalev looked pathetic in there, dude. Hey, boys and girls, Alex was saying, he texted me before. He says, I didn't realize that Sergey Kovalev's on the card. Oh, I'm so
excited.
Did
I sound like that in the text?
Well, that's the way I interpreted it. The way you wrote it, it sounded like
my voice was all lilting.
But the truth of the matter was, it was sad to watch. Dude.
Yeah, his days are gone. He he was lucky to finish, I think, just because the fight ended up, because he got put, was he stopped in the last round, or did he just make it to the bell? Because he was put down in the last round, right?
Yeah, he got back up. He He finished on his feet.
Yeah, but he
he was in trouble.
Yeah, he's done. And he did seem, it was one of the more jovial Sergey Kovalev pre-fight interviews than I've ever seen. He was like, "I'm happy to be here." That's what it seemed like, you know. So I think maybe to me that was one of the things. His demeanor before the fight, I was a little, I was like, wow. First, I was surprised he was there because I didn't realize he was on the card, and then let alone the televised portion, and then to see his demeanor being like in such a good mood, that seemed different. He fought all right, you know, up until that point, but yeah, he's nothing like he used to be, that's for sure.
You know, I love those cards from Saudi Arabia. What a day I have. You know, it starts at 10 o'clock. You get the prelims, right? I mean, well, the problem is I also start other things a little too soon. So I wasn't able to really do a post-fight show. But it was very enjoyable, and I loved it. And let's talk about that fight. Usyk becomes the world heavyweight champion, and takes care of Tyson Fury. I scored the fight 115-113 in favor of Usyk. Basically, there was several extremely close rounds in this fight that could have gone either way, like the first two. Most people scored the first two for Usyk. I actually gave Tyson Fury the second round, but then from the 8th round on, it was all Usyk on my card, including the knockdown round in round 9. The 10th round was another one that could have gone either way, but at the end of the day, I scored the fight for Usyk. And I'll tell you something, Alex. As I was watching this fight, I was saying to myself, because you and I both picked Usyk, and I was saying to myself, maybe I'm wrong again here, because I thought Tyson Fury looked great in the beginning. You know, his jab was snapping. He looked like he had more hand speed than I ever saw him have, and he was moving around. He could throw an uppercut from 9 feet away and connect with his opponent, which is, I don't know anybody else
Yeah,
that
that's unheard of. Yeah.
yeah, that can do that. And he abandoned it for some strange reason, because he was landing it every time. And my man, Coach, I got to give Coach all the credit in the world. He said the difference in this fight is going to be Tyson Fury's uppercut. And it certainly was, except he didn't throw it enough. At the end of the day, and when you correspond the rounds, at least on my scorecard, when Tyson Fury started really fooling around, sticking his chin out there and putting his hands down, putting his hands behind his back, I think that was the turning of the fight. And I'll tell you why. His movement was great, and he was moving around, like I said, snappy jab and all that stuff. As soon as he started clowning around, Alex, it seemed to have slowed him down just enough for Usyk to start connecting with all those counter punches that he was throwing. This time he was connecting earlier, but not as with as meaningful punches as he seemed to in the second half of the fight. And I think that Tyson Fury's clowning is what won the fight for Usyk. What was your overall thoughts?
I think I would disagree a little bit. One, I thought that I didn't think it was a difficult fight to score. I didn't think that there were many close rounds, and part of that is I had my card was exactly the same as Chris Mannix, and I was like, well, if this guy's getting this card right, it must be an easy fight to score. Sorry, that was mean. I had it 7-5 for Usyk in rounds with the extra point for the knockdown. I thought that the first two I gave to Usyk, then Fury took over. Yeah. And Fury was in charge from like the third to, I would say, the 7th, maybe a little bit into the 8th. And I agree with you. I think the sign of how comfortable he was just how much clowning he was doing. I think what happened was the pressure Usyk puts on you got to him, and I think that's why it started to look like, well, the only thing this guy's doing is clowning, because I think he stopped landing punches like he was, because I think one of the things Usyk does is he keeps applying pressure. And that's one of the things he even said. He was very subdued. I forget now if it was at the post-fight, the last press conference, or at the weigh-in, where he said, "Hey, I am not going to leave you alone." And he didn't. He was right there. And the way he was coming in like this, he made it very hard to get grappled.
Yes.
If Fury was to grapple him, he wouldn't be able to sort of tie up his arms. It would be very obvious Fury was sort of fouling Usyk. And that was a very wise thing, because nobody else has been able to do that with Fury. They kind of get into the grappling mix, and then you're pulling and tugging. There was a couple of times where Fury did get his arm around his neck and put him in a headlock. But if you notice, he didn't get away with it for long because Usyk prevented it. And I think that's the thing that got to Fury, was that he couldn't clown, because when you're clowning, it's eating up milliseconds. And the thing that I think he discovered was that this guy can close the gap very quickly, quicker than he expected. And I think that's what ended up happening. And then, that ninth round where he was lucky to get out of there. If there was more time in that round, I don't think he does get out of there. But even in that round, the thing that's amazing about Tyson Fury, he is one hard to hit, gigantic dude. Because even in that round where Usyk had him so hurt and reeling, Usyk's missing a lot of bombs.
Well, he was missing shots.
Like leaning back. It's like, how is this guy so hard to hit?
Well, he was stumbling around. I mean, he wasn't that hard in this shot, and then this.
Oh, he was definitely catching him, but I thought he'd be able to kill him, but he didn't.
This was my favorite still.
Oh yeah.
And if anybody doubts the fact that the ropes were holding him up, I mean, this picture shows it, hands down, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was excellent job by ref Mark Nelson.
You see, now I was critical of him, and I'll tell you why. I thought now this is all after, right? But during the fight, when that round 9, that fight could have easily have been waved off. And I don't think anyone could have argued that it wasn't justified. Mark Nelson gave him every opportunity to finish the fight on his feet. And as it turned out, Tyson Fury did. And he seemed to have all his faculties at the end of the fight and everything else. So no harm, no foul. But that could have went a different way. And then we'd all be talking about, what a mistake he made. Every single referee I have ever spoken to, and, Larry Hazard being the guy I respect the most in terms of, refereeing and judging and stuff like that, he'll be the first to tell you that the rule to follow in every single referee seminar that, refs go to and what have you, they are told and taught it's better to stop a fight too soon than too late. That was a fine line there. I mean, Tyson Fury was out on his feet. It's remarkable that he was able to recover as quickly as he did. I mean, the only other guy I've ever seen recover that fast is Evander Holyfield. I mean, he had great recovery powers, which brings me to the topic today, Alex, and it's based on what you said, because we started the talk last week. And I made a comment. I don't know if you recall this, but I made a comment. Well, Tyson Fury's got a questionable chin. And you said, what? Questionable chin? Billy C's, how can you say that? He got up from that devastating shot. And blah, blah, blah. I said, you're right. And I started thinking about that. And now I pose the question to you and to everyone else out there. What's a good chin? A guy that can get up from being knocked down, or a guy that doesn't get knocked down at all? That's what I've always looked at as a solid chin. Now that you'd had time to digest that, well, what's your thoughts? Do you change your viciousness on that?
No. I think you could argue that both. If you think about a guy like Muhammad Ali, he got knocked down, but he always got up. if you think about a guy like Marvelous Marvin Hagler or Jake LaMotta, Jake LaMotta, I think, was down a couple times, but he's famous for the absolute pummeling Sugar Ray Robinson gave him and not going down. And Marvelous Marvin Hagler, 67 fights and down once, and it was sort of a brush down from Juan Domingo Roldan. Oliver McCall having a nervous breakdown, and Lennox Lewis, one of the meanest punchers of the 21st century, couldn't put him down. So yeah, you could certainly argue. I mean, George Chuvalo, Carmen Basilio, Marciano, a lot of these guys, you could put them down on the deck, but they wouldn't stay down. And they could have absolutely horrific, frightening facial injuries, and they keep going. So I do think that a chin is probably a combination of both. I mean, me, I love Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I've got him on my arm. So I guess you could argue, that I do like a guy with a who doesn't go down. But I think Tyson Fury has a great chin because there's a shot, and I've seen it as a meme. I've seen the replay where Deontay Wilder hits him with a right hand directly in the forehead, and you see the ripple of the shockwave sort of go down Fury's entire body. He goes down and he gets up. That shot would have probably killed many medium to large size herd animals. And he got up. That was amazing. So I don't know. I think, and even the fact that, 60 seconds later, he's out there.
And he finished like there was that round never happened.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't like he was cooked and Usyk just put him away. And just one thing about Mark Nelson, I think you're right, is that I think most other fights, that fight probably would have been stopped. However, I think if it had been stopped, Fury, who made an excuse about the war in Ukraine, that's why they gave him the decision. I think Fury's camp would still be saying that they were robbed. And I think the other thing that Mark Nelson recognized is that this was for all the marbles. So he was going to give that guy every benefit of the doubt. And I think he did the right thing.
Would he have given Usyk the same?
I think, maybe not. But I'm glad we didn't get to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, speaking of seeing, it was reported that there could have been as many as 20 million people watching
crazy.
that on illegal streams. Streams. So if that's the case, even if 10% of them bought it, I mean, you're talking huge numbers for that fight. And I was shocked when I saw that. 20 million people,
a lot. Yeah. But I do think that, overall boxing won. The card, I don't know, the card, we got a little bit of everything. The best thing about, I really enjoyed the Kakachi Cordina fight. Kakachi just fought a great fight. He was like in sixth gear. That was impressive. Both him and then later on that night on the ESPN card, the best performance of the day in my mind were Brian Norman, Kakachi, and Usyk, because Brian Norman put an absolute whooping on Giovanni Santillan on the ESPN card. That was like a horror movie, the amount of blood spilled in that fight.
Well, speaking of Fury and Usyk, is going to be a rematch. Frank Warren confirmed that Usyk said, Tyson Fury said that he's going to exercise it. He was hemming and hawing. After the fight, he said definitely. Then at the post-fight, conference, he said he's going to go home, and he said he got paid and he's going to go get laid, and then he was going to go and think about what he's going to do, talk to his 7 kids or whatever. But it was announced. Frank Warren said, and I quote, he's back home. He's recuperating in his mood right now as he wants the rematch. It's already signed, so it's going to happen. Now, with that said, it's supposed to take place in October, by the way. with that said, it's already going to be with one less title because the IBF.
Yes, so ridiculous.
Well, they explain that it's in their
Oh.
rules, and this is where I think the four main sanctioning bodies need to play nice, so that we can have these unification fights. I understand
it's against their best interest to have unifications.
it's against
And I
their
think this is
financial interest,
right. Well, which is what they exist for. So, I
right?
mean, yeah, that's what, to me, this is a perfect example of how preposterous they are. And it really does come down to like, what are all these, like the alphabet soup belt, the Chef Boyardee ravioli with meat belt. That's the validity they have. Who cares? Usyk is the man. He will be the man until someone defeats him or he retires. That's all there is to it.
We see that's what's happening, and at least knowledgeable boxing fans. I don't know how the younger ones that are learning about it now, how they feel. I think they put more value on the belts than we do. That's for sure. But I think fighters get to a certain status, and then they don't need no stinking belts. I mean, the belts mean nothing. Floyd Mayweather is a great example. I mean, Manny Pacquiao is a great example. They're both going to sell out, with or without a belt. And I think Usyk has, and really Tyson Fury for that matter. These are guys that could still, be a big event with or without a title. It's nice to have a title. What sucks about these titles is they create one all, I mean, the people's champ, the unified champ. There was a belt that he was holding up. Somebody produced that for him, But
Sure, why not? Another one.
I love. Yeah, you know who makes out is the belt making company.
I know.
They're the ones that
love
make
it.
more money than anybody.
Yeah, I mean, they mean something in the sense it's like getting a title or a promotion at a job. Does it mean something? Yes, it definitely means something, especially when you're a young fighter coming up. However, you do, like exactly as you said, you reach a point, and because the sport is so public, you reach a point where there's no pretending anymore. And that's where you get into the lineal thing where who's the man who beat the man? That all these sanctioning bodies don't mean anything.
You want to know something? This is off topic, but and I know if Dax watches this or listens to this, he's going to smile and he's probably even going to bust my what's a little. But who I've really come to like, and I never liked him as a fighter when he was active, but I respect him so much, and everything he says is true. Lennox Lewis. I don't know why all of a sudden I've become a Lennox Lewis fan, and he was honest when they're going.
Dax will be thrilled to hear it.
What's that?
Dax will be thrilled to hear
I know. But he's going. They're interviewing him at the fight, at the Usyk and Fury fight, and he's going, are you happy to pass up the torch? And his first quick answer, he's like, no. And then he was like, well, yeah. And then he tried to cover up for it, but he was so honest with that,
I like that too, yeah.
I love that. Hey, you know what yesterday was, right?
No, what?
It was opening B sample day for Ryan Garcia.
Oh, how'd that go?
They don't know yet. They said that they opened it. Now they have to send it out for tests.
They opened it. We're like, whoo.
Yeah. They go, yeah.
It's a big container of piss. So
yeah, exactly. They announced the Tank Davis, and now it's being billed as the Tank Davis David Benavidez card. I don't, you know what? I usually buy the fights legally. I'm not part of one of those 20 million. You don't have to say if you are or not.
No, I in the past, there has been times in the past where I have. And when I was, back a few weeks ago, when I was looking at the schedule and thinking, oh my God, we got Haney Garcia or Garcia Haney. We got Canelo Munguia and Usyk-Fury. I got to shell out for all those.
I know.
But I did, and I'm happy I did.
I just like you don't have to switch, when they get taken down. But apparently there was some streams going uninterrupted for the whole time. Anyway, the Benavidez and Tank Davis card they announced, and this is a pay-per-view card on June 15th. It's a garbage card. Even these two guys are not fighting. I mean, Tank Davis is fighting against Frank Martin. Okay, the Ghost. Yeah, okay, and David Benavidez is making his light heavyweight debut against a former champion, Alexander Godzik. In that one, it's already being billed as an interim light heavyweight fight. But the supporting other two cards, Gary Russell against Alberto Puello and Carlos Adames against Terrell Joshua. He's also Adames is now the WBC champion. I'm not impressed with that card, Alex.
Yeah, I think that it's, I mean, Gervonta Davis Martin could be interesting. The Transnational Boxing Ranking Board has Martin at 5th. Davis is one of the best in the world. So whenever you're in that position, every time go through the ropes, there's an interest in seeing you fight. Is he going to be challenged deeply by this guy? I don't think so. I think for me, the appeal is to see how he looks, see how Davis looks, and see how he handles Martin, because now I'm thinking of a potential Lomachenko fight.
I think the Lomachenko against the guy who beat the Saturday night.
Kambosos. Oh, against Baranchek?
Yeah, Baranchek. I'm thinking Lomachenko against him, and then I would like to see Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson fight, right? And then the winners of those two fight. That's what I think.
I mean, in a perfect world, I think the Baranchek Lomachenko fight might be a little harder, and I really have no evidence about this. However, I think they're both there. I don't know if they're friends, but there's definitely a mutual respect. They're both Ukrainian. So I don't know if that will make it easier to make or harder to make. I have no problem of seeing Baranchek Stevenson and Lomachenko Davis, and then the winners face off against each other.
I don't think Lomachenko Davis is a good fight for Lomachenko.
I think it's going to be a very difficult fight for him, which is why I think it would be interesting, because it's a very dangerous, speedy puncher against
power.
Against a crafty guy who's going to have to be fighting on all cylinders the whole time. And that's going to be interesting.
And Tank is so much bigger than Lomachenko. We all agreed that Lomachenko. So it was a heavyweight. Cruiserweight fight. Noel. I can never pronounce his name. McKillian, who's 27-2, was ready to face Ryan Rozicki for the WBC Cruiserweight title, but McKillian got injured and he won't be able to fight. And that was on the Adrian Broner, taking on your favorite guy, Blair the Flair Hobbs. And joining us right now, we got a surprise guy from Don King Promotions, the one, the only John Musciunas. What's up, John?
What's happening, man? I was running around in here and ran back to get on with you. So things are changing as we speak. But
so first, tell us about the injury. I mean, I know this was a pretty anticipated fight for McKillian. Is the fight just going to be rescheduled? The same opponents?
Yeah. What's the deal? Yeah, we just put out a press release about it. Yeah, that's the plan right now. I don't know the exact details or date or anything, but he caught his eye, and ridiculously, I was looking at comments on a couple of these articles, people going, "Oh, McKillian's running from." Trust me, McKillian is not running from Rozicki. But I will tell you this much: that Rozicki dude is the scariest. And I've been around some dudes. Some of these guys have been around here. That dude is the single scariest guy I've seen. And McKillian is very much not afraid of him. McKillian is he's a soft-spoken guy, but he is a killer. And I was really looking forward to that fight. I mean, that was going to be, I think it was going to be 3 or 4 rounds of solid punch throwing by two pretty good cruiserweights. And so I'm very disappointed, but it'll happen. We'll get it on. It'll I don't think it was a major cut. I think it was like minor.
I was looking forward to that fight because I know you and I spoke off air, but I am so in love with the cruiserweight division, and it's popular everywhere but here in the United States. And what we need is a really good cruiserweight fight to take place here in the States to maybe light a fire under the powers that be, so we could see a little more. And the truth of the matter is money. Let's face it. These guys aren't making the money that they can make at heavyweight. So a lot of times it'll force them to move up in weight. And then we end up with a guy that really is a little too small with today's heavyweights.
Yeah, I think so. Rozicki, to me, like I was standing next to him, he looks like a heavyweight to me. Just way bigger guy than I thought. His face kind of looks like Conan O'Brien till you get to the tattoos that start here and then go all the way down. And then he looks like somebody right out of, I don't know, a prison or something like that. But I just seeing a guy that looks that bad and seeing Piepaoli, I don't know if you saw the press conference, but so at the end of the press conference, Piepaoli, very soft-spoken, went right into, well, I'm looking forward to the next fight. And then he said, this is just a training fight, is what he said quietly under his breath. And then he stared up on the podium. So when they got up to face each other, they did this weird face-off. Not weird. They wouldn't turn around, to take the regular hands up, gloves up picture. Went on for like 4 or 5 minutes, and Mark Lichtenfeld was uncomfortably going, and I'm waving to Mark, tell him to turn around. He's going, okay, fighters, turn around. He must have said it 4 or 5 times. And then I see Rozicki clenching his fists, and I'm on the left in front of the stage, and I get now there's big security at the Hard Rock, big guys, one huge looking guy, like 6'8". I said, get up there next to Rozicki's. What? I said, get up and stand behind him, because if this starts a brawl, it's going to clear this whole dais if it happens. And Rozicki backed off, and they were cool about it. But that was just the kind of thing where I look at it and I go, now I really want to see this fight. And I've only seen a couple of Rozicki's fight. Alex, you probably know better about Rozicki. I've seen Piepaoli, and I think I know what he can do, and he was pretty impressive against Makabu. Rozicki, I saw 1 or 2 of the fights online, and other people have told me about it. But I think in that fight, we're going to get a solid 3 or 4 rounds of guys really throwing punches in that cruiserweight division. Like you say, a great cruiserweight fight will bring attention to it, especially here in the United States at the Hard Rock on the biggest stage, one of the biggest casinos here. That would be a big thing to have a great cruiserweight fight, a barn burning fight.
Yeah, especially if it's a brawl, people. So now Adrian Broner getting back in the ring, and obviously that's still. Are they going to replace the cruiserweight fight with something else? What's the story with that?
It's a little up in the air, but the Cassius Chaney, Michael Hunter, they did a press conference yesterday online. Were you on it, Alex? Were you on the?
No, but I'm looking forward. I covered a bunch of Cassius Chaney fights. I really like him a lot. I'm looking forward to that fight.
Yeah, so now it's the WBA. I guess it's the regular championship. I mean, that's what it's officially.
Oh, wait a minute. The heavyweight, the regular championship is Manuel Char. He's injured again. They postpone. He's had that title on and off.
Let me just say, I don't know what it is that's. They were claiming that. I know I'm not speaking officially. I'm just claiming that's what was discussed on this press conference. And both of these guys are. They're kind of like, I think they're close to the same age and the same height, and they're both pretty good fighters. So I think it's going to be a pretty good fight that's going to probably move up to that co-main event. We haven't made the official schedule yet, but probably going to be a pretty good fight, I think. But the fight that you got to watch, that's one of these really good fights that you only get once in a while, and you only get them on like a Don King card, because only Don King's brave enough and cool enough to do these fights, is the Antonio Bang Williams versus Antonio Bam Bam Perez. Those are 2 guys undefeated, 16-0, 9-0, and you're not usually treated to those kind of fights where 2 guys who hope and expect to be world champions possibly are fighting this early in their career. And both of these guys can throw. Both of them have attitudes. They've got the persona. I've watched now both of these guys fight multiple times. That might be your fight of the night.
Well, I tell you, I'm glad to see somebody doing that here in the States, because over in the UK they do that all the time. As a matter of fact, we're going to be getting a rematch of one of those UK matchups this weekend. But all right, so the main event, June 7th, Adrian Broner. And we all have been watching your videos of what's going on behind the scenes with those guys.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but Alex is Blair Flair Cobb's biggest fan. As a matter of fact, he's got him all over his room. He tried, he's having custom made tie-dye shirts. When we met Blair in Vegas, he had this shirt, and Alex was just like, "What's with this shirt?" That was the first thing I had to ask him about his shirt. He's a likable kid. He's been out of the ring for a little bit, and so has Broner. They both look like they're in decent shape from the footage I've seen.
Absolutely.
And to be honest with you, John, I look at this fight, and I don't know, Alex, if you feel the same way, but Adrian Broner should really not the Adrian Broner that was a lightweight, because that could have been a Hall of Fame fighter, but Adrian Broner, even today, he should be able to beat Blair Cobbs. I mean, if Cobbs gives him any trouble, this could be the end of Adrian Broner, no?
I kind of think that this fight reminds me, and to a lesser degree, of like a Julio Cesar Chavez versus Willie Wise. Remember when Chavez fought Willie Wise and everybody thought, oh, he's just going to walk through this guy. And Willie Wise gave Chavez a very difficult time because Chavez was getting long in the tooth, and Willie Wise came in there motivated. And, Willie Wise was not much more than, a journeyman sort of club fighter type guy, but he seized the opportunity. I think Blair Cobbs has that kind of a chance. I think Blair Cobbs is not terrible. We've already seen that he's a decent fighter, and he's got oodles of personality, great wardrobe. And
wardrobe.
and I think you don't know what Adrian Broner is going to show up. You're right. I mean, when I remember the lightweight Adrian Broner, there was a few times when he was on his ascending where I was like, this guy fights like Bo Jack. That guy is not around anymore.
No.
So it'll be nice to see if he's in shape. It's definitely an interesting fight.
Well, Blair the Flair Cobbs is a guy that's at the bottom of his, what his potential talent can be. He's still learning. I saw when we saw him fight, there was so many holes in his game back then. He's
gotten better though. He's definitely
he hasn't fought though. He's been at it.
Yeah, but his last fight, he had a loss, and then he has come back since the loss. He got stopped. And then he won his last bout. He won a 10-rounder versus Maurice Hooker, which that's a pretty decent win.
Yeah, Maurice Hooker's a good fighter. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, this is really an important fight, John, for both of these guys.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? But I'll tell you one thing: Broner's in shape.
Yeah,
there were some changes. I'm not going to highlight those changes, but the changes happened, a month or 2 months ago. He came in the office, pulled his shirt up. First thing he did, and I saw stomach muscles on the guy, and that hasn't happened in a while. And he is look at these two guys are like great to promote. This is like awesome from my point of view now with social media, and Don's got a check mark on Instagram. When I went live the other night, it was like, there's been close to like 300,000 people have watched that video on different people's platforms. That is the best from my point. I'm not a promoter. I'm not on the boxing side of stuff. I'm on the TV side, but I love this stuff. And these guys are both great. Like, I mean, Blair Cobb showed up with an Adrian Broner doll.
I saw that.
He tried to the security at the Hard Rock. We were upstairs in the Dare nightclub, which is a great venue for a weigh-in. So they were, the security's awesome there. So he had this big bag, and they made him open it up. And he was like, "Oh, I don't really want to show it." And the security
What do
guy,
you have? A Muppet?
just pull it halfway out of the bag. So I was down there and I see it and I go, "Oh my God, look at this. Look at this thing." And he takes it out. And it was very expensively made. It's like professionally made. It looks like Broner. And we had our cameras up there, but somebody had a great camera shot where when Broner got up to talk, Cobbs had been practicing with the thing and was mouthing all the words that Broner was saying, and he was getting under Broner's skin. And when's the last time you saw Broner at a press conference with somebody getting under his skin like that? Now he's older and he understands the game. For all that goes on in his life, when it comes to these events, I can tell you he's a total professional. He did all of our interviews. He's a very intelligent guy, amazingly intelligent boxing wise, understands the promotion, but he definitely was Cobbs was getting the better of him. And I thought, wow, this was awesome. And sure enough, it ended up, the whole thing altogether got, 500,000 views through all the social media. And that was part of my job. And to me, that was a success. And it wouldn't have worked unless Cobbs was who he was. And now what guy shows up to fight Broner? I don't know. Are there flashes of Broner when he was 22, the 4-belt guy that still lurk in there? Or is it Chavez when he fought Willie Wise, or Chavez when he had the bloody mask, from De La Hoya? Does that guy show up?
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's what makes it a must watch to see. Got to see where both these guys are.
I tell you, Cobbs definitely has another career, because I grew up, in the late 70s, 80s with Sesame Street and the Electric Company and the Muppet Show. And he did a really good job manning that puppet. He was everything Broner said, he would repeat.
It was great. It was, I was sitting in the back going, oh my God, we couldn't have bought a guy to come in. This guy did. Great.
Well, hey, listen, that's a real good positive Blair can look forward to. It should this boxing thing not work out for him.
Exactly.
But
nobody punches you when you're manning the Muppets.
Yeah, and you get to call all the shots. Hey, John, before we let you go, how can we watch this fight? Fist of Fury, June 7th.
Triller TV, DonKing.com, pay-per-view. It's $39.99 for it. You can see it around the world. There aren't any other TV deals out there, so it's Triller TV or DonKing.com. It's you can buy it right now. It's up there on DonKing.com. If you want to get tickets, there are tickets available and tables. Ticketmaster.com, or if you're looking for a table, call us here at Don King Productions, and Vonda can take care of you on a table. On the tickets, you can buy them right online on Ticketmaster. There's still tickets available, and that arena is spectacular place if you haven't been there. The new Hard Rock, it's theater seating. The tables are around the ring, and the fighters walk across the stage, and then across a big sort of bridge. We got this awesome lighting going on. We got some spectacular TV stuff that we're going to do that my TV guy Mike Moran has pulled together. We got point of view cameras, and it's going to be a really cool, technically cool event to watch. So DonKing.com and Triller TV, or TrillerTV.com, I think you can go to and buy the pay-per-view.
Sounds good, brother. I appreciate you coming on, straightening us out with the injury and the card, and I hope to see you soon.
As Blair Cobbs would say, woo!
Woo!
And he says it a lot louder, too. All right, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
Great seeing you.
All right.
That's John Muskiunis from Don King Promotions giving us a little and I knew that you're a big Blair Cobbs fan, but hey, a couple of things real quick, and then I want to break down this fight as we're running out of time here. They announced that Teofimo Lopez will be stepping in the ring with Steve Claggett on June 29th. I actually like that fight. Claggett, I know his record is 38-7 with a couple of draws. But I think he's going to be a good test for Lopez in that one. So we'll see what happens with that. And then a fight. I don't know what to think of this one, Alex. Joe Joyce and Derek Chisora are fighting on July 27th. Now, Chisora was part of the Usyk-Fury broadcast for a little bit. and I started saying to myself, he seems a little punchy. He seems a little punchy.
A little.
And Joe Joyce, when I watched him fight his last fight, I said to myself, this guy's slow as molasses. Anybody that is anybody in the heavyweight division should be able to. Now, granted, he's got, severe punching power, but, if you land a shot with him and he has no defense, this is actually going to be a competitive fight. I think when I say that, I think that their skill sets are equal. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I personally, I'm not a doctor, but I do think that we're already seeing signs of, damage to Derek Chisora. And he's been in just a lot of wars. He's been beaten up badly in several fights. I don't think that, even if he does give Joyce some difficulties for a few rounds, I don't see him coming close to winning. I don't like the fight for Derek Chisora's health. But I think he's still got a name and people, and the thing about it is that I bet he will give his all, because he always does. But I just don't think he should be taking a lot of punishment anymore, and I think he will.
Yeah, well, it's I think
Again, I'm not a doctor,
and you didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
I sure didn't.
All right, there's a big fight this weekend, and I'm actually looking forward to. I've become more of a UK boxing scene of late than anything else, because I respect these guys so much, and I'm a big fan of Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Sport for promotions, but he's not afraid to put his fighters in against each other, and this fight, Josh Taylor against Jack Catterall, is a rematch. The first fight ended in a controversial manner, giving Josh Taylor a split decision win. And I want to break this one down. I mean, first I'll give you some quotes. They genuinely, how these promotions go sometimes, Alex. They hate each other. I'm going to do this. And then after the fight, they're hugging and kissing. You see them saying, I just was saying that shit during the thing. Yeah, it's all, But these two guys seem to really despise each other.
Yeah.
Josh Taylor said, we're finally here. It's been a long time coming. I'm looking forward to it now. I've had a lot of stick, but I've never taken it personal. But I'll be taking it out on Jack Saturday night. It's just another boxing match. Which contradicts the sentence prior to that. He's going to take it at him, but it's just another boxing match.
Yeah.
Forget the last fight. Forget everything that's gone on. This is a completely new fight, new circumstances, no belt on the line. Yes, there's some beef there, but listen, I'm a consummate professional, and I'm enjoying the fight week. I can't wait to get there on Saturday. Catterall says, we saw each other last night at the face-off, and there wasn't a word spoken from him. We'll see. It might change as he's making weight, and I'm making weight at the weigh-in on Friday. But right now, he's not got much to say. I think we're both focused on the job. For me, it's personal with Josh. It's a fight that I believe I won. I'm excited to put that right. I still have goals and aspirations of becoming a world champion, but one step at a time. It sounds like it is personal, and that's dangerous, Alex, when you make it like that for a big fight. What's your quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the Marlon Starling line, which I don't know if it's, maybe it was an Eddie Futch line before him, but the worst thing that can happen in a boxing match is a fight breaks out. Well, these guys look like they're ready to fight. The first fight was very heated, very close. Catterall thought he was ripped off.
And a lot of experts feel the same way, though.
Yep, a lot of people agree. And I think that, since then, Catterall has won twice. Josh Taylor lost to Teofimo Lopez and was, looked very disappointing in that fight. Struggled with weight. So if you think about sort of the guys if you think about a career as something you want to keep going like this, Catterall's is still on the ascendancy, whereas Taylor, they're meeting where he's on the slope, the downslope.
At the
So-
old age, at the old age of 33.
Right. And not so much in terms of mileage, but I think in terms of, the time in his life, what we saw, and if he is struggling with the weight, we know that that's not something that happens the night of the fight. That happens in all these weeks of training. That's where the wear and tear is coming in. That's where the, drinking only a little bit of water, all those kind of things, eating very less than you want to eat, or less than you need to eat, and training really hard. So if those kind of things are happening, then you got to like Catterall. At one point, it's pretty crazy because when you think about it, there was one point not too long ago where Josh Taylor was one of the best fighters in the world.
Considered one of the best.
Yeah.
And going into their first fight, it was for all the belts,
Yeah, and in that first round, Catterall hurt him. So it could be that these two guys just have each other's number,
Well, let me give you some breakdowns here. So Josh Taylor, he's got a record of 19 wins, 1 loss. His only loss coming at the hands of, like you just mentioned, Teofimo Lopez. It took place in June of last year. Of his 19 wins, he's got 13 knockouts, which is a little less than 68.5%. He's 33 years old. He's 5'10". He's a southpaw. He's got a 3-inch height advantage. His arm reach is 69.5, which isn't much different. It's a half-inch more than Catterall. The computer sees him at number 13 in the world. Ironically enough, he's not rated in the WBC, IBF, or WBA in the junior welterweight or super lightweight divisions. The WBO has him at number 5. His big wins in his career, and he's had a few. He's been in some big fights. Obviously, the controversial split decision win over Catterall in February of 22. He also had a unanimous decision win over Jose Ramirez in May of 21. A majority decision over Regis Progress in 2019. He's got a unanimous decision over Ivan Baranchek in 2019. He's got a 7th round stoppage of the once blue chip Ryan Martin in 2018. And he also had a unanimous decision over Victor Postal. These were all, legit fighters. I mean, when you look at his resume, he's been there, a former world champion. He steps in the ring with Jack Catterall, who definitely does not have the pedigree that Josh Taylor does. His biggest win really was against an aged Jorge Linares back in 2023. All his other big wins were domestic victories. I'm not slighting those guys, but domestic fighters, not on the world stage. He's 28-1, so he's got more professional fights with 13 knockouts. His only loss came at the hands of Josh Taylor. And like you mentioned, he hurt Taylor in that first fight, but he's not known for his punching power. He's got a 46% knockout ratio. He's 30 years old. He too is a southpaw, which always makes it interesting when you got two southpaws fighting each other, giving up 3 inches. The computer has him at number 17, but all 4 of the sanctioning bodies have him ranked. The WBC has him at number 5, WBA at number 5, IBF at number 3, WBO at number 6. So it's interesting. It's almost like the sanctioning bodies and the boxing world follow what you were saying about, on the way up versus on the way down. Do you have a official prediction for this fight?
It's a tough one because I think that Catterall is the guy who, this is his fight. This is sort of a vision quest type of thing for him. He wins this fight. He not only proves that the first one, he was jobbed in the first one, but, he's the better man. He's the better fighter. Taylor, if he wins and wins decisively, he says, yeah, the first one was a fluke and I'm back. So both guys have and because they don't like each other, I think they're both going to be highly motivated. The question will be, how much does Taylor have to motivate a body that can't do what he wants it to do anymore? Because if the weight is the problem it was for Lopez, then that's not going to go away. I like Catterall by unanimous decision. I think that Catterall is going to seize the moment and say, look, that first fight was a fluke. I was screwed out of that first fight. I deserved a decision then. And now I'm going to get it this time, and I'm going to win it convincingly. So I pick him by lopsided unanimous decision.
Some of the other rumors around is Taylor has lost his drive to fight, in addition to, being in some big fights. I mean, I just rattled off some big names that he was in. And, in these fights, even though they're both kids, in my opinion, 30 and 33, it always reverts back to Jack London's "It's a Piece of Steak," Alex. Yeah. I mean, that essay hits home with the sport of boxing like no other. It did when I was a kid and I read it for the first time, and it applies to all these types of fights that we're talking about. I too am picking Jack Catterall in this fight. I don't anticipate a knockout, but I do anticipate a lot of action, and I would like to see a knockout, but neither one of them are known for their punching power. It's going to come down to heart and conditioning. And I have a tendency to agree with you. I think that Catterall wants it more, and Josh Taylor's been there, done that,
Right. And I think this is a sport that, it is a tremendously mental, psychological game. And just to go back to what we were talking about with Chin, the human body, most people, other than professional fighters, spend their whole lives trying not to get into a fight. These guys and gals get into the ring to do something that is unnatural. That's why a guy like Oliver McCall, who was having a nervous breakdown, and still doesn't get knocked out. It's just, that's mind blowing. I'd be in the fetal position in the locker room weeping, having a nervous breakdown.
He was standing in the corner weeping, and meanwhile, Lennox Lewis
couldn't hit him, and it's just hard to believe. So I think that that's one of the things. At the same time, Josh Taylor, we don't know what's going on with his life. If he is in a position where, it's not, because it is, as not to quote Teddy Atlas, but he is right. It's a truth chamber, and I think that that's one of those things. And I think that's probably why the nervous breakdown for McCall happened in the ring, because it's like you're stripped away everything else. All you've got is what's in here and what's right here.
Yep.
And what's in here. And I think that when he realized that, it was overwhelming. Yep. So I do think that, we don't know as much as these guys are going to be geared up. I do like Catterall in a close fight. But of course, I mean, that's the beauty of this. These guys match up well. So Taylor can turn it all around.
Yeah, and everything is under the carpet if he does. I got 2 emails to read, then we got to fly. This one's from Coach. He says, wondering what your thoughts on the fight was. He's referring to Fury Usyk. He says, I thought it was great. It was good for boxing. I had the uppercut prediction right. Yep, he certainly did. I gave him credit at the beginning. He says, I'd like to see the rematch, but Fury versus Joshua, and he'd like to see that first, and then the winner gets Usyk. And he says, in Joshua's case, it's a losing side trilogy. So here's the thing. I think it was great for boxing, the fight, especially for the heavyweights. And I do believe that when Tyson Fury fights Usyk in the rematch, he's going to win. Tyson Fury will win the rematch. I just think that it's going to be a different fight, and there'll be no clowning around, and he's going to let his size and reach and all of that be the advantage like it should have been in the first fight. As far as Anthony Joshua against Fury, I don't know. I'm up in the air on that one. I think Fury is a good opponent for Anthony Joshua, to be honest with you. But I also think if Anthony Joshua fights Usyk a third time, I think he comes out on top. So we'll have to wait to see. My last email here is from the other Alex T. He says, "Hey, Billy C, congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame." Well, I thank you, the other Alex. I'll throw this up there since he brought it up. Since he happened to have brought it up, where is it? There it is. If you guys see this, Jeremy whipped this up. I mean, look, it almost looks like it's photoshopped. You know, that is an actual shot of me, but it looks weird. But yeah, just go on the website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on that, and you can get all the information. Come on out to Howard Beach and enjoy the day with us. But anyway, he says, congrats. I don't know how long I've been listening to the show. He says, but I'm guessing I found it around 2007 and 2008. I remember you guys were talking about Ezra Charles and Charlie Burley, and I knew I didn't need to listen to any other show again. I've always enjoyed all your guests, the Heavyweight Spotlight, Alex's Blast from the Past, and Dax, and especially Sal. Yeah, I miss Sal, man. I've been thinking of him more often than not lately for some reason. He's popping in my mind a lot. But he says there's a few of us fans out there who want to watch all the current fights but love the history of the sport as well. You're the guy who keeps the history of boxing alive for a lot of us. Congrats, and thanks again. Well, thank you for the accolades. And I tell you, I value the viewers and listeners, Alex, that like the history of the sport, because that is the most important thing to me. You know, I mean, current fighters, I hate to say it, they come and go, and they're always talking about woulda, coulda, shouldas, but the history, and that's what I think is one of my biggest hangups with some of the younger fans, that they don't look at the history. And I think that the success that a lot of fighters today have in terms of just the sweet science in general, there were a lot of guys that gave a lot more than getting their face punched in a little bit during the fight. I mean, they virtually gave their lives and their lives after boxing for the good of the sport. And I just think that they need to be recognized. That's just my opinion.
No, absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things that this sport is different than others in that, you know, it's really, I don't know. I knew this guy who used to say it's a niche within a niche. Remember that? You ever hear that saying?
That was me.
Yeah.
And so I was the one that said that.
You were. And so when you run into fans of this sport, it's just a great feeling. And you tend to have a lot in common. Now, the thing that's changed about that, and maybe it's just this happens when you're getting older, is that they don't have the same these days. I don't bump into people that seem to have the knowledge of the history. So when you do meet someone who does, it is just so refreshing.
Alex, the guy hit it on the head. Remember when my book, I was talking about my book before the book came out. I was talking about Tom Molyneux and this and that, and I got the email. Remember, I put it in the book. I got the email from a young listener. He says, "Oh, I want to learn more about Tom Molyneux. Can you send me any video clips?"
Right? It's like
video clips. There wasn't
1700s, dude.
There wasn't even any cameras. It was 18. Okay, it was 18. Okay? You better read that book again.
Early 1800s.
Yeah. So.
Right. Well, that's like my nephews will say to me, and they bust my brother's balls, and because they know now that. But when they first would say it, they would like, "Hey, Dad, were you alive in the black and white days?" It's like the world was still in color. The TV was black and white.
I know. I always say to my kids, I go, "Hey, you guys weren't even alive when you had to actually get up and change the channel." But,
the black and white days.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on with me again today, and any time is good. And for everybody out there, thanks for joining us, and make sure you tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And don't forget, get yourself a ticket to the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame. I want to see you there. But until then, we'll see you next time. Ciao, baby.